Hello everyone and welcome back to Everlasting Summer. Last time we were here, we dealt with unusual confessions, and Semyon continues to get tricked into doing things by Electronic and Shrek. Isn't camp life exciting? I glanced over the square and saw Lena approaching. Relaxing? Something like that. She sat by me and looked at the sky. Nice day, huh? It is. It was a bit awkward. Lena seemed different. She was not embarrassed. Her face was not red. She was confident. Suspicious. So about that conversation. I told you everything already. Yeah, but... just forget it. If you say so. We sat for a little longer in silence. I just can't, not like that. So what do you think about Alisa? She said, ignoring my inquiry. What do I think about Alisa? I repeated, lost in thought. I don't really know. I think she needs to grow up a little bit. Why? You're just so worried about yesterday. Well, of course. But what does that have to do with it? There's a direct connection there. She laughed. Let's assume... So what? Well, she... And again I started thinking. Really, what do I think of her? Well, she can be arrogant sometimes. That's right. What else can I say? Now that I think of it, I don't know Alisa at all. The way she acts does annoy me sometimes. It annoys me all the time. If you were wondering if I had any negative feelings about her, then no. But how do you not? I would. I mean, she gets carried away, but everyone has their quirks. We are experiencing Alisa as two different people. Which, I mean, it's true, we are two different people, but no, still. Ruining my immersion, Semyon. Lena stared at me. Really? Did I say something wrong? No, not really. She laughed out loud one more time just before the lunch bell sound came. Alright, see you. I didn't stop her, although I had a lot of questions left. But how do I ask them? And should I? I got up and slowly shuffled to the canteen. There were only a few spots left, so I had to sit with Electronic and Shrek. Did you deliver it? Yeah. I answered lazily, poking my fork at the buckwheat kasha. No incidents? No incidents. What was in there anyway? You didn't open it, did you? He stared. No. No. Great! Liar. Finishing my meal, I went out. I was struck by a sudden yawn. Taking a nap wouldn't be a bad idea. I headed to the camp leader's cabin. I still think it's weird that Semyon stays in the same cabin as a camp leader, as Olga. It felt like the summer sun was going to melt the whole planet together with all its inhabitants. There was nowhere to hide. The sunlight seemed to reflect from every surface. Looking up, you risk going blind. I mean, looking down, you risk going blind too. The sun's reflecting off of the very bright sidewalk. Using my last bit of strength, I pulled the door handle, entered the room, and fell onto the bed. Of course, I wouldn't expect the cabin to be really cool, but it was much better than outside. Blissfully, I stretched out on the bed and closed my eyes. Strangely, sleep deserted me. I was overwhelmed with thoughts teeming in my head. Here's another theory, a solution to the problem of how I got here. Here's an explanation of what's going on. And here's the true form of all those inhabiting this place. I remembered Lena saying, "What do you think about Alisa?" Seriously, what do I think of her? What can I think of a person I've only known for a few days? Can I just draw conclusions based on a couple of words and deeds? Although her deeds... I laughed a bit. Any relevant organization would draw the right conclusion based on the monument bombing. Still though, I don't care. Maybe I really don't think anything of her. Can one be interested in a person who's not interesting? No, that's some sort of absurdity. A knock on the door. Come in. I was too lazy to get up, so I just sat up a little bit. The door opened and I saw Alisa. What a coincidence. She stopped, unsure, and stared at me for a couple of seconds. I guess you were looking for the camp leader? Why would she, though? No. What's up, then? I was looking for you. She sounded calm and not aggressive at all. I caught myself, thinking I was not afraid of her and had no concerns when she behaved like that, normally. What for? I heard you were speaking to Lena, What you speaking to her about? I want to make everything clear. She sat on the bed across from me. What, exactly? I want to clean up any misunderstandings or miscommunications. Alright, I'm up for that. Have you spoken with Lena today? No. Yeah? About what? Nothing, really. You're lying. Well, no, really didn't really speak. We mentioned you, but, didn't really get anywhere. Alisa looked stiff and worried. She crossed her legs and bit her lip. My earphone keeps, clicking in my ear. It's annoying. You do understand I'm always assumed to be guilty whenever anything happens? Well, you always are guilty. I said thoughtlessly. The spark flashed in her eyes, but she kept talking calmly. I mean, you kind of walked into that one, Alisa. Maybe. But in this case, me and Lena, we're always like that. Even if she starts something, she's all innocent and I take all the blame. So you're saying that Lena... Actually, I don't really know what you're saying. You never understand anything, do you? Oh my god. Calm down. She fumed. This is strange, I wouldn't call myself slow. So explain. That's what you're here to do, you're here to explain. Don't get mad at me because I don't understand what you're talking about. You do know Lena likes you. She went red after those words. No. I answered truthfully. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't see the obvious signs. I didn't understand what was happening the last time we spoke. And that entire conversation that we had on the island. Well, now you do. Now I do. An uncomfortable silence overtook the room. I was processing what she said, and Alisa seemed unsure of how to continue the conversation. Lena likes me. Could I ever have guessed? Yeah, you could have said it. Unlikely. Oh my god. Semyon, you're super dumb this round. My intuition is usually good, but when it's about me and my feelings, it doesn't work at all. The weirdest thing was, I accepted the news with almost no worries. I guess you You have to get into a situation like he did with Slavia where he fell on top of her, crushing her, before he realizes anything. You know what? And maybe even then he didn't even realize. Right at the moment I was listening to Alisa. I was focused only on her. I could think about the rest later. And she thinks I'm gonna steal you away from her. She thinks that all the time, understand? Even though it's always the other way around. Everyone looks at her because she's such an angel, and no one pays attention to me. Well, I mean, it's because... have you seen what you've been doing? Everyone pays attention to Lena because she's literally like... even if it's not true, she's showing that she's nice. She's acting in a way that doesn't get people to, like, hate her. Unless it's just like, oh god, she's so nice. Oh, gross. But you, Alisa, do things that gets everyone angry. You bully Electronic, there's that. And then you do all this other stuff that's just like, wow, Alisa sucks. So, sorry that, like, you don't realize that you kind of just walk yourself into things. To them, I'm just a shoulder to cry on. What? It's definitely not what I thought that was gonna go to. Alisa started screaming. Oh my god, look, Please don't get so upset. I don't think of you like that. Of course. You think you're annoying, but you're not my shoulder to cry on. I still had no idea what forced her to be so honest. And I didn't know how to react. Moreover, I was not worried at all. It was like I was watching another episode of some TV series and what was going on in the room was on the other side of the screen. Semyon is feeling super detached right now. I understand. That was the reason for all of it. But today Lena said it was okay. That's just like her. You've probably realized that she's not as quiet as she seems to be. I'd started to guess. If I can do anything. Tell me. Alisa raised her eyes. Only then did I see she's been crying. What? Some sort of worry stirred inside of me. I couldn't treat this conversation like I was an outsider anymore. Do you like Lena, or do you like me? I guess I should have expected a question like that, but I just wasn't ready. Just like that. Lena is nice, of course, but Alisa has her good points as well. Besides, the way she was at the moment, she could seriously compete with Lena. I don't really know you two at all. A question like that, it's difficult to answer directly. If I could say no, I would have, at that very moment. But I only had one chance for the other answer as well. And I didn't know what to choose. You did want the situation to resolve itself. Of course, but... Why but again? Why again? Why? Look, we're going nowhere with this. Well, answer then. Her face fell back into its usual bold arrogance. I need time to think. Well, go ahead and think. Alisa stood up abruptly and headed out. I don't like Alisa because it's too much emotional whiplash. Don't forget we have plans for tonight, she said on the threshold, smiling. The door closed behind her before I could say anything. Plans? What kind of plans? The talk with Alisa left a heavy impression on me. So, Lena likes me. On its own, the news could shock and startle, and I, above that, was also forced to make a choice. A difficult one, to put it mildly. And any choice I make would be a mistake for someone. You know, the way Semyon's acting is like he hasn't gone through any of this stuff, and the one who should be forgetful and confused should be me, considering the amount of time in between recording sessions that I have. But Semyon's here, so confused, and like, As if he hasn't been the one personally going through any of this. If only I could refuse them both. Although I didn't like the word refuse. You can refuse them both. Why are you making it as if you can't? Just because two people like you doesn't mean you have to say, "Oh no, I have to choose one." You have a third option, and the option is, "Nah, bye." If I could just answer her question with a no, it would be easier. But I knew it couldn't work like that. After I talked to Alisa, I realized nothing would ever be the same again. It can't be no matter what happens. And I'll have to make a decision. Since I rejected the no scenario, I needed to pick a positive solution. If, of course, I could live with it. But I was sure that out of all the possible outcomes, there's one that won't just justify everyone, but would also be one that I would want to strive for. And the choice seems obvious. Lena. She's pretty, she's cute, she's kind. Excuse me? But then again, there was something about Alisa that attracted me. Why would you choose Lena? You barely even interacted with her. Semyon, I'm gonna kick your butt. Suddenly the door flew open and Olga Dmitrievna came in. Lounging around again, huh? Just resting. It's so hot out there. Go and help Slavia. She was asking around. Where? I asked lazily. On the sports field. Directly in the sun. Reluctantly, I got up and headed out. I should really air my brain out anyway. There were a lot of people at the sports grounds. Some were playing football, others were playing badminton. Oh my god. Badminton. I guess. I kept tripping over it so many times and now I'm not even sure what it is. Younger kids were just chasing each other. Semyon. Slavia walked up to me. You required my assistance? I asked, all official-like. Yeah. Listen, did you take the infirmary key? No. Why would I? Why me again, anyway? Well, you were there a lot recently. I guess she's right. No. Maybe you know who did? No, why? The nurse came up to me to ask for my key. You know that I have a key to every building in the camp. She said hers went missing. Could she have lost it? I shrugged. No, she says she couldn't have. I don't know, okay? Okay. She smiled and ran off. Well, okay. I headed to the camp leader's house determined to get some sleep after all. That was a waste of my time. Olga Dmitrievna wasn't there, thank God, so I fell on the bed and lost consciousness. I don't exactly remember what I dreamt of, but it left a heavy impression, as afternoon naps often do. I put some effort into getting off the bed and looked at the clock. It was just after 7. Not surprising if you think about it. I should have expected to sleep through the day. Although, as it turns out, I missed dinner as well. That thought made me uncomfortable and I headed to the exit. I stopped on the threshold and thought of what to do next. I don't know how long I would have stood there, my head was still heavy after sleep, if someone hadn't called out to me. Slavia was quickly walking towards the cabin. Semyon? She started, breathless. Are you sure you don't have the infirmary key? I don't. Of course not. Why would I need it? Well, do you know who took it? No, I don't. Why? Well, something has gone missing. What? Something important. Slavia hesitated. Some medication. So all this disturbance was started because of some medicine? Although, I pondered. I mean, I have the bottle in my cabin. Does she mean that? I try to keep my face still as stone without doing anything to give myself away. Wait. I'm trying to remember, did Semyon take all the vodka? Or, I thought he took only some of it. I'm really confused now. Okay. I don't know, I'm sorry. Okay. Slavia said in frustration. I looked at her and tried to figure out how bad the situation was for me, or whether I was in trouble at all. On the other hand, the vodka, I did steal it. Then again, she's saying it's gone, as in disappeared all by itself with no external influence. Although it's highly unlikely that she would say that a bottle of trophy vodka was stolen from the infirmary. So the way it was said was okay, the problem was different. I suddenly got really scared. What if they find out that was me? Even if it wasn't about the bottle, they'd still find it while looking for what was gone. Basically, I had to get a move on. Drink, 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 drink. And the main thing to do right now was get rid of all the evidence. Drink it all, dump the bottle in the forest. I jumped into the cabin, shoved the bottle under my belt, and raced to the forest. I thought he only took a little bit of it. I didn't realize he took the entire thing. Burying it somewhere was the best decision at the moment. Oh, lame. I would drink it. I took my time looking for a spot, never noticing night falling on the camp. A familiar voice surprised me. Hey. I struggled to turn back, making my face look as casual as possible. Totally don't have anything shoved in my pants. So, what's going on here? Oh, I'm just having a walk. My voice sounded calm, but I already understood I couldn't fool Alisa. Alone, at night, in the woods? Well, yeah, what's wrong? Not doing anything suspicious. Nothing at all. She stared at me. Okay then, Hold on. Aren't you forgetting something? Don't think so. We had an agreement. About tonight? I think she's right. There was something like that. Yeah, but you see... No, I don't. Let's go. She turned around and gestured me to follow. I thought there was no point in arguing. Any word or action could give me away. And then, sighing, I followed. While her back is turned, you should just toss the bottle into the bushes. It was a couple of minutes before we reached her cabin. While we were walking, I was busy trying to find the best time and place to ditch the vodka, but Alisa stayed so close that I couldn't manage anything. Should have just been all like, I gotta fix my junk. Give me a second. And then you hurtled vodka into the forest. Which would probably shatter it, but hey. Have to get rid of it. Well? She stared at me. Well, what? I was so nervous that my hair was wet with sweat. The only thing on my mind at the moment was how to adjust the bottle so she wouldn't notice. Just picturing him very awkwardly holding onto the front of his pants or something. What do you say? About what? Alisa pondered. Okay, I guess you're right. I brought you here, so I'm the one to decide. Okay. I agreed, unsure. Hold on a minute. She reached under the bed in a few seconds, pulled out the bottle of Stolich... a bottle of vodka. I was shocked. Oh no. Oh, okay. So I guess he took enough to put into a separate bottle. And then I think he said he poured like water, so he diluted the other vodka to make up for what he took. Surprised, huh? Of course. Not by the vodka itself, though, but by the fact that it was the exact bottle I carried to the infirmary in the morning. The murky contents gave it away. So? Alisa looked at me teasingly. What? Want to take a shot? I didn't even know what to say to that. What she had was just rotten water. The real vodka was in the bottle under my belt. Oh. My thoughts keep getting corrected. So he took everything of the vodka and he swished it with really crappy water? That's disgusting. How does he... I thought he only took like some of it. Because at least you could be all like, huh, tastes like vodka, but like, not really. This one's just like, wow, tastes like crap water. And our culprit, Semyon. Well, I kind of... Don't tell me you don't drink. Alisa pouted. I don't know. No, I just... Alright then, just a second. Oh, don't just say it. In just an instant, Alisa got 2 glasses and filled them to the brim. Let's do this, she said, giving me one of the glasses and downed hers before I could answer. Oh no. Ah, she gasped. In a moment, she realized. What on earth is this? She started spitting. They call this vodka? Despite my difficulty, I couldn't help laughing. What are you laughing at? Alisa shouted, red in the face. I'm asking you what's so funny. What? I'm asking you what's so funny. It actually is funny. Okay. So you're having fun? Drink yours. We'll see how you laugh then. Yeah, I'm not gonna drink it. No thanks. I had no desire to try the still water, but just to avoid making her suspicious, I asked. So, how does it taste? Like rotten water? Alisa said, upset. I was just going to relax a bit, have a cultured timeout, and then... A cultured timeout? I repeated as a new bout of laughter bent me in half. Hey, stop it! Alisa shouted and jumped at me. Oh, no. My vodka. She's trying to hit me or bite me or something. Maybe her plan was to crush me to death with her authority. I just grabbed her hand and all she could do was gasp in powerless anger. All was going fine, but then Alisa's legs slid and she began to fall. I let go of her hand so she fell right on top of me, painfully headbutting me in the nose. I moaned in pain, threw her off, and turned to the side. What do we have here? When I realized she had taken the bottle, all the pain disappeared. Give that back! I tried to get the bottle back, but Alisa nimbly jumped off the bed and ran to the far corner of the room. Let's see, huh? She immediately removed the cap and took a big gulp. You dumb. In a moment, her face went red and her eyes seemed to pop out of their sockets. What is this? She rasped while coming back to her senses. That's the actual vodka. I seem to have come to terms with my defeat. But where did you get it? You really thought you had stolen the right one from the infirmary? She nodded. Well, it was the right bottle, sure, but the contents? Man, you're clever. She was already starting to slur her words. Weak. Alisa came to the window, poured the water out of my glass, and replaced it with vodka. Come on. I don't want it. This is not the right time or place. Drink it, or else I'll tell everyone you stole the bottle. But it was you. Well, you had the vodka. You can't prove that. I could just say mine is the stale water and yours is the real one. It is in the bottle, the original bottle. You think I even have to? Alisa said maliciously. Unsure what to do, I stared at the glass. What's important is to get rid of the vodka. This was just one of the ways to do it. I breathed out abruptly and swallowed the contents of the glass in one quick motion. A short moment after, I regretted that. Got any food to chase this? Wait a second, Alisa said excitedly and pulled a huge stick of ham out of her drawer. Excuse me? I tore it from her hands and bit off a big piece. Ugh. Tastes disgusting. So, how was it? You're asking? It's not like I had a full-strength booze every day, you know. I didn't really understand how I had agreed to this so easily. Well, how was it? Like double bubble with vodka flavor. Alright, time for another round then. She opened the bottle again and poured us half a glass each. Do you think that's enough? No way. Well, since we're already started. The alcohol was starting its work. Without a second thought, I gulped down the vodka. Alisa was definitely less experienced. She was having some trouble with her second glass. Ugh. How does it? She seemed really drunk already. If you can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen, I said merrily, pouring myself some more. Somewhere deep inside, I realized it was too much, but the gun was already loaded. And how about me? Alisa was outraged. Haven't you had enough? No way. She grabbed the bottle from my hand and started to drink straight from it. Hey! We have glasses, you know. How uncouth. Screw 'em. She shouted and roared in laughter. This is so cool, she said, catching her breath. Sure, it's not bad. I looked at the bottle. We'd gone through 2/3. I was definitely drunk by this point, and Alisa seemed even worse. Then again, there was barely any left. Where's Liliana? It's like nighttime, shouldn't she be here? I sighed and poured a full glass for myself and a half for Alisa. That's all. With these words, she chucked the bottle from the window. What if they find it? Oh, who cares? We both laughed. Okay then, for all ladies present. I grunted and drank. And for all the gentlemen. She followed my lead. I'm getting dizzy. She undid a few buttons on her shirt. I carefully looked at her. Had she always been this beautiful? Oh no, the drink is getting to you, bro. Or is everyone beautiful to me at this point? I like how it says she undid a few of her buttons and then it just changes to how she usually wears her shirt. Whichever it was, I could not force myself to look away. You're gonna stare a hole through me if you keep going like that. Alisa laughed. Sorry. Embarrassed, I stared at my feet. You can look if you're interested. With some effort, I opened an eye and saw her continuing to unbutton her shirt. Oh no. No words could escape my mouth. Besides, who needs words at a moment like this? Semyon, no, don't do it! What happened then was what was supposed to happen. At the time, I was unable to think of what was right to do. And I didn't want to, I just felt good. The light bulb burned out, or one of us turned off the light, but either way the room went dark. I looked around our cabin and thought of something. Where's Liliana? What, you're afraid someone will come in and see us? She grinned warmly. Could happen. I asked her to spend the night at another girl's cabin. Wait, so you planned all this? Well, not something like this, of course. She looked at me intently, smiled, and closed her eyes. Yeah. Tisk tisk. Doing the naughty. Semyon, you're drunk. I stared at the ceiling for a while longer and soon heard quiet, deep breathing. Alisa was asleep. My head ached suddenly. The alcohol seemed to be wearing off. Well, that was fast. Best thing to do in this case is to follow her lead and get some sleep as well. Before I finished the thought, I was already fast asleep. Some people were chasing me. Or maybe they weren't people but fuzzy black bolts with a hellish landscape in the background. I ran, stumbling over something, having no air to breathe. My whole essence was overtaken by primal fear and terror. And then a memory lapse. I opened my swollen eyelids only for my eyes to be struck by bright daylight. A terrible taste in my mouth, pains all over my body, and a severe headache. It seemed someone was drinking hard yesterday. After coming to my senses, I started to recall the events of last night. I believe there was a bottle of vodka, which I happily emptied together with Alisa. I tried to stand up, but something was pinning my left arm. It was the peacefully snoring Alisa. Everything that happened returned to my mind. Fear was quickly replaced by a feeling of euphoria. I relaxed lazily on the bed, enjoying a beautiful hungover morning. Sometime later, Alisa woke up. I kissed her softly and said, "Good morning." She gave me a blank look for a couple of seconds and then jumped up shouting, You! Me what? Yesterday, you! She hissed. But it was kind of your idea. I was drunk. So was I. What can you do? Alisa was furiously looking at me, but then calmed down and sat beside me. Alright, whatever happened, happened. You sure? I got up and tried to hug her. Don't, she whispered, blushing. Man, it's like one night and Semyon's like super affectionate. Why? Because. Alisa frantically shook her head. Because it's 4 o'clock already. And what? Don't tell me you're late for something. Everyone will leave without us. Leave where? Today is the last day. The last day of what? I asked, completely confused. The last day of the term? What? The hangover that seemed to have already passed a while ago made a sharp comeback. Don't tell me you didn't know, asked Alisa in surprise. So, you did know. Well, yes. But I'd forgotten it somehow. And what should we do now? Actually, that wasn't the main thing that I was concerned about. I'm surprised no one came in and caught them, considering everyone's supposed to get, packed up and leave. If today's the last day, then everyone will go somewhere. So I can get out of this camp somehow. See you later, Alisa. I'm going home. Well, I have no idea. Oh, it's kind of intense music. Maybe we can still make it. I jumped out of the bed and started dressing quickly. It was difficult as my coordination was badly disturbed by yesterday's lavish indulgence. What are you waiting for? Alisa didn't reply but started dressing too. A couple of minutes later, we were standing at the deserted square. Let's go to the camp leader's cabin. After opening Olga Dimitrievna's cabin with my key, I found nobody inside. We checked the entire camp and found that we were all alone. Oops. After returning to the square, I sat down and covered my face with hands like a doomed man. I still felt sick, but now it turned out that I had to solve a serious problem. Considering that Olga is in charge, and I'm pretty sure you can't just be leaving behind students, and you should have a list of names that she should have, checked in. But then again, this camp isn't exactly real life. I don't know what the heck this camp is still. So, I guess Olga could have been like, well, I guess that's everyone. Let's go. Or they disappeared. There's that too. It's just... I still felt sick, but now it turned out that I had to solve a serious problem. Where would they have gone? Well, to the district center, I guess. Do you know where it is? Approximately. Is it possible to reach it on foot? Don't know. And how long would it take on a bus? A couple of hours. Quickly, I reckoned how much that is in kilometers. Taking into consideration the quality of the Soviet motor car industry and Soviet roads, one could presume that it was quite possible to reach it on foot, provided that Alisa knows the exact direction. Moreover, in my situation, it's not easy to decide on such steps. But we can't stay here either, alone without food in a deserted pioneer camp. In real life, it would be definitely a bad idea, and I had no other choice but to treat everything happening as reality. Let's go. Where? To the district center. Are you mad? You'd prefer to stay here? Sure, they'll notice that we're missing and will return. Don't you think it's odd that they didn't notice it during departure? Well, yeah, but... She started to think. But to go somewhere all on our own? But you said you knew the direction. I do. She agreed without confidence. So, what's there to think about? Maybe we'll encounter some local buses on the way. I don't really believe that myself, but if there's an exit from this camp, this idea seems quite solid. I don't know, as you say. She prattled on confusedly. Then start packing your stuff. Meet here in half an hour. I ran towards Olga Dmitrievna's cabin. Yeah, not much to pack. I tossed my warm clothes into a bag, and I was about to go when an interesting thought crossed my mind. What would I actually need them for? It doesn't seem to be late summer, so what's the point in dragging unnecessary weight along? Especially since I don't know how far I have to walk. After reasoning that one could survive weather without a coat and warm boots, I shoved my cell phone with its dying battery into my pocket, and went to the square. I had to wait at least 20 minutes for Alisa. My hangover seemed to ease a little, so I could better focus on the previous night. What does she really mean to me? Was it just drunken sex, or something more? Naturally, I can't speak for Alisa. It's difficult to even speak for myself. I began to remember the course of my acquaintance with her, how she teased and mocked me at first, her arrogance and self-confidence. It was more than compensated for by the tenderness of last night. It was already clear that she's not the person she wants to seem like. But what kind of person is the real Alisa? And do I have any feelings towards her? I do feel sympathy, as sort of affection, but is there something more? My reflections were interrupted by Alisa. Here, take it. She held out a huge backpack to me. What's this? I asked, skeptically. My stuff? Why so little? I brought as much as I could fit. Look, we don't know how far we have to go. Maybe you can take only the most necessary things? So what? I just have to throw it away? Leave it here? Alisa sniffed. Firstly, I couldn't understand why she even had that much stuff, and secondly, what's so valuable in there? But the chivalrous duty of carrying it is mine, isn't it? Of course. She smiled archingly. Archly? I evaluated how much it would weigh. About 10 kilos, I guess. I can carry that for a few kilometers, but not much further than that. You do understand that we'll not get very far with it. Well, we'll do our best. You mean I can throw something out later? We'll see. she answered with her eyes flashing slyly. Okay, I'm taking you at your word. After all, as I have to carry it, I have the right to throw things out of it. And so our journey begins. I'm sure you could have found another bag and divided whatever she has so that she could carry something too. You guys are going to be walking for a long time. It took me at least an hour to start getting tired. I would never have thought that I possessed such stamina. Either the backpack was easy to carry or last night's exercises had trained my muscles. Okay, gross, Semyon. I stopped on the roadside and threw Alisa's belongings to the ground. What are you doing? She was clearly resentful. Do you want to carry it yourself? Of course not. In that case, I need a rest. Jesus Christ, carry your own stuff for at least the same amount of time. So suck. Naturally, the most rational decision was to get rid of most of the stuff, keeping only the most necessary things, but I couldn't bring myself to such drastic measures. You've been keeping silent for the whole time. Alisa was staring vacantly down the road that receded into the distance. What is there to talk about? Don't know. But you're behaving as if nothing happened. Did something happen? She asked absent-mindedly. Well, you know. Had enough rest? Then let's go. Alisa began to quickly walk away from me. Hey, wait a minute. I shouldered the backpack and ran after her. We've been traveling in silence for some time, with Alisa slightly ahead and me behind. I had no idea how to start a conversation. She seems to be giving out obvious hints that the night's events were one big mistake. At least it seemed to me. Though from my point of view, what happened was meant to happen. For the last few days in the camp, I'd definitely been attracted to Alisa, and I believe she was attracted to me as well. In that case, what's the problem? Maybe she doesn't want it to be just a one-night stand? You know... She turned and looked at me. If I did something wrong... You did nothing wrong. But... It just turned out this way. So it was just an accident? I didn't say that. Then what did you say? My inability to get a straight answer made me begin to lose my temper, and I raised my voice. You're just giving me hints, ambiguities. What about straightforwardness, sincerity? You weren't like this before. People tend to change. Oof. She slowly paced forward. Change? You call this a change? You're a completely different person now, just like Lena, really. Alisa stopped but didn't turn. Ooh! Don't compare. Got it? Don't compare me with her. She spoke quietly, but there was a rage in her voice. What? I was somewhat taken aback. You blame me for everything, but what about yourself? You're constantly looking at her, even now you manage to see her in me. Oh my god. Wait, what's... Why did you come yesterday then? You could have gone to her. You did know. Did know what? Did know that I was waiting for you? It seems that making this confession was a hard decision for Alisa, but at first I assigned a little significance to her words. Well, you yourself told me to come yesterday, so I... This isn't about that. Alisa burst into sobs and covered her face with her hands. I was completely taken aback. I still didn't get what she's hinting at, so it was impossible to talk normally. Sorry. Forgive me. Stop apologizing. But if I said or did something wrong, so what's the point in apologizing if you already did? Better to behave yourself from the beginning. But I don't know how. Alisa looked up at me. There was so much sorrow in her gaze that I couldn't bear it and turned away. We stood like that for some time. Soon she seemed to pull herself back together. Okay, forget it. Let's move on. Naturally, I couldn't forget it even if I wanted to, but I had nothing to say anyway, so I followed her in silence. The sun was slowly moving below the horizon. I was immersed in thoughts and even forgot about that heavy backpack on my back. I had to say something, do something. Alisa's expecting me to. At least a few words. But what should I begin with? I'd gotten used to everything in my life being quite simple. Any task seemed to be already finished after only a few steps. Instead of considering the long way to my goal, I immediately started to think about the results, enjoying an unachieved victory. Moreover, I doubt I'd have to face a situation like this in the real world. Obviously, for a long time I dreamed about a person who would care about me. But right now, such a person is in front of me, and yet I feel nothing. And I can't tell Alisa either yes or no, just because I don't know what will happen next. Meanwhile, it got dark. I guess we should make camp for the night. There's not that much left to go. Are you sure? And even if that's so, it's better to travel during the daytime. You know best, she answered coldly. We stopped at the edge of a wood. Got anything useful in there? I pointed at the backpack. Have a look. Mainly footwear and clothes were there, but on the bottom I found a magazine and a box of matches, quite enough to light a fire. Soon we were sitting on a fallen tree and warming our hands by the fire. Only now did I finally realize that I'd finally gotten out of that damned camp. I'd found no answers. On the contrary, everything had become even more tangled, I guess, I'm able to spend the rest of my life in this reality. If I don't take into consideration all the sci-fi stuff, it's clear that I'm somewhere in the South at the end of the 80s. How, and more importantly, why I was brought here is not so important now, as I have to somehow adapt. Oh, that sucks. He doesn't got a house. He doesn't have anywhere to go back to, unless this world just somehow decides, you know what? You got a place. Don't worry about it. I got you. And I ought to begin with the girl sitting by my side. So what will we do when we reach the district center? Call our parents. What else? Alisa smiled slightly. She had someone to call. And then it's all over. Meaning, well, we'll leave for our homes. I wasn't really surprised by this answer. I just hadn't thought about what would happen after the term ended. And that's it? What else is there? I don't know. After all that happened. But nothing happened at all, she told me merrily. What do you mean nothing happened? You'll have a chance to find Lena. I was surprised, but Alisa said it absolutely kindly. As if I need Lena. Don't you? To be honest, Lena was the last person I was thinking about now. No. Then maybe it's me. I looked at Alisa attentively. She grinned spitefully. And she was weeping just recently. What about you? I evaded the question. What do you think about me? I don't know. Maybe you can just say it straight out? A long silence fell. Alisa is waiting for a straight answer, but I can't sort it out for myself. This pioneer camp and now the girl who wants to hear something, I can't say that easily. You see, and then I really understood. Understood that now it's no use trying to be cunning and holding things back. I almost managed to break out of the cage. The worst is over. Or on the contrary, the worst is yet to come, but it's time to speak plainly. You see, what you're expecting from me is almost impossible. Looks like everything's impossible for you. She sniffed. It's weird to say it, but it's true. I don't know what will happen to me, not even necessarily tomorrow, but in the next second. And what might it be? Will you vanish into thin air? Yeah. Quite possibly. She burst into peals of laughter. You know, I was ready for for any excuse, but not one like that. These aren't excuses, just listen. Alisa gazed at me attentively, and, it seemed, had no intention of interrupting. You see, I don't belong to this place. I'm not talking about the camp, but about the whole world. All of you here are completely strange, incomprehensible people to me. As you are for us, actually. I'm not even sure if you are for my planet or my reality. Quit it now, Alisa said tiredly. Imagine that once you fell asleep and woke up in a completely different place. And not just place, but a different time as well. That's what has happened to me. I used to live in the early 21st century in a city far away from here. I was somewhat older than I look now. I had my own life, regardless of whether it was good or bad, it was my own. And then one night I took a bus, fell asleep and woke up here. As a 17-year-old pioneer. Alisa looked at me in surprise. And you expect me to believe you? I don't know, it's up to you. It really wasn't easy for me to tell you that. You're a master storyteller, really. Just a sec. I rummaged through my pockets and showed her my phone. To my great surprise, there was still some battery and the screen was glowing brightly. Have you ever seen something like this? Do you have something like it? I held it out to Alisa. She fidgeted with it, pressing buttons. Well, some kind of imported foreign toy, so what? It's not a toy, it's a telephone. And where are the wires? Where's the handset? She laughed. There's no need for them. Unfortunately, I can't demonstrate to you how it works because they're still not invented in your time. Yeah, sure. She said skeptically and handed me my phone back. Anyway, it's your decision whether to believe me or not. I told you all this only to explain what position I'm in now. I still don't know what will happen to me in an hour, so such decisions... Fine, you don't have to say any more. And you don't have to make any decisions. She got up and pushed some more firewood onto the fire. If I've offended you... Nah, everything's fine, she said coldly. I understand. You're a visitor from the future, so normal girls like me don't interest you. You got me wrong. No, I didn't. It's a very credible, logical, and above all truthful tale. Any girl would dig it. So, you still think I'm making up excuses? Alisa stayed silent. Or that I've gone completely mad. One would expect anything from you. Why do you have to be like this? I said sadly. And what about me? I've done nothing wrong. She grinned spitefully. Just imagine that it's all true and understand why I behave so. I already imagined, understood. I was about to say something else, but a horn sounded from the road. There was a bus on the roadside. Elias on a regular route. It's odd that we hadn't noticed its approach, just materialized. At last, salvation. Shall we go? Alisa asked in a completely bland, emotionless voice. Yeah, sure. I grabbed the backpack. I can manage it myself. Oh, frickin' finally, it took getting mad at each other for her to finally carry her own bag. She took it from me. It's obvious that it was too heavy for her, but I didn't object. Soon, we sat peacefully on the back seat of the bus. Various feelings fought inside of me. On one hand, I was glad beyond measure to get to the civilized world. On the other, I was guilt-stricken by the unfinished conversation with Alisa. Sorry that I acted so. You expected something different. I expected nothing from you, she replied coldly. I just wanted you to understand. And concerning our relationship, I like you, really. Glad to hear that. But her voice didn't sound so glad. I said it honestly. You see, I don't know what will happen next, but here and now. I guess last night you liked me even more. No, you misunderstood. Should we do it again while the driver can't see us? Calm down for a second, okay? I didn't even think about it. What's the matter? You want it and I don't care. It's the only thing I'm good for. Oh my god. It's like I'm trying to explain. I can understand her being angry because it's like, what the hell are you talking about, Semyon? Like, what is this all of a sudden? Coming from the future? And I wouldn't really take the cell phone into any consideration, considering frickin' Shurik and Electronic are making, like, a robot. Alisa, wait. Okay, I want to sleep. She reclined on her seat and closed her eyes. Wait a sec. I'm sleeping, let's talk later. I didn't object. After all, it's good to seek counsel from your pillow. Besides, Alisa needs some time to calm down. Although, of course, I was desperate to explain everything to her in a way she'd understand. But I held back. Still, I was sick at heart. We were alone on the bus. Outside, dark shadows were passing by. Sometimes it was possible to discern a tree, a river, or the pylons of a power transmission line. But the landscape seemed not to differ from the one in the camp. Maybe the world is a circle, and we're just moving around it. Anyway, the surroundings were the least of my concerns now. I just stared at the floor and thought about tomorrow. What will happen? This city, this planet, this time, all are strange to me. And a further talk with Alisa, who was totally disappointed with me. The process of waiting happens to be more tiresome than its results. And finally, things bound to happen don't look so important or fearsome. All your strength is exhausted, there's just tiredness and emptiness in your soul. The bus was driving into the unknown. I couldn't resist and fell asleep. It seems I'm getting old. The day was over and the hangover should have been long gone, but I still felt sick and dizzy. Despite how hard I tried, I was unable to open my eyes. I just rolled over. I wonder what awaits me in the district center. How am I to live? Maybe it's not all that bad. Well, sure, I don't know where to begin, but on the other hand, this world doesn't seem hostile. I know a lot of things here. Everyone speaks Russian. So maybe nothing bad's going to happen. Suddenly, I felt very sick. Damn it. I thought it was all gone by yesterday evening. I managed to reach the toilet, moving instinctively. After some time, when my dirty business was done, I returned to the room. And then I realized... I'm back in my old flat. However, it's not so old. It seems that nothing had changed during the week of my absence. The dust layers haven't even grown thicker. The keyboard position, monitor inclined, and the stain from a cup of tea on the table stung my eyes. Theoretically, a man in my condition shouldn't notice such details. But the entire room drew my attention to the most minor of details, as if it was twinkling with different colors. The socks were thrown around in exactly the same manner as they had been before. The blanket sat rumpled on the unmade bed as it was before. The dirty windows showed the same view of the street like a cracked kinescope? What is that? Kinescope. Like a cracked kinescope, which is a television picture tube, a film recording of a television broadcast. In vain I tried to become terrified, or at least scared. Maybe it's shock effect, post-traumatic stress disorder, or something like that. After all, several hours ago I wasn't even thinking of returning to the real world. The pioneer camp, the girls, Alisa, the mythical district center, where I would have arrived if I hadn't woken up in my flat. All that had started to seem real to me. Maybe my fantastic vacation to Semyon was just a dream. My feet started to rake up circles around the room. I held my hands behind my back and started to think everything over. Only one thing is clear. I returned as suddenly as I arrived there. Without any reason or logic. Maybe there was some sort of explanation, but it's beyond my, or human, comprehension. Whether it was a trick by interstellar forces or a supreme mind or government experiments, I believe the last one to be the least likely, they left no clues. If I was unable to find the answers in the camp, it would be foolish to expect things to become clear here. It's like searching for evidence in a house that's been burned to ashes. Even if a crime was committed, all the evidence was destroyed by fire. Maybe if I had the skills and equipment of a criminologist, I could find something, but the memories of the weeks spent in the camp are all I've got. But it wasn't a dream. I knew it for sure. My hangover was absolutely real. My feelings and emotions were genuine, not just the stuff of dreams. Therefore, I've been there. I spent a week in the Soviet pioneer camp with the camp leader and the pioneers. I mean, your hangover could have been because you drank and you don't remember. In the real world. And everything was but a dream. With Alisa. Memories of her made me sigh. It would have been great to leave with her. Wait a minute. What's wrong with me? I should be glad I returned home to the real world. Or shouldn't I? For now, I just couldn't evaluate the situation reasonably. I couldn't understand whether I wanted to stay there or to enjoy my long-awaited return. I noticed a 5-ruble coin on the table. I took it and began to toss it up without any purpose, counting the number of heads and tails. A long time ago, maybe even in school, I heard that in an infinite number of coin tosses, the probabilities are not equal to 50% each. Maybe it's because a coin doesn't have a perfect shape and weight, or because of some other reason. However, after some time I counted 70 heads and 71 tails. So the theory of relativity lies. But I'm not the man to judge it. I don't know much about it. I recalled my childhood, when I had heard the words tails for the first time. For some reason, it always made me think of squirrels. Maybe there's some logic in this. A squirrel does indeed have a tail. Does that mean the squirrel is the god of the Soviet camp? Now, this theory seems strange to me, but at the same time, I couldn't find any conclusive evidence to disprove it. So, does it mean that squirrels come out more frequently than heads? But one must consider that a squirrel has a head as well, so... I yanked on my hair and sighed, exhausted. Now's not the time for thinking of such rubbish. On the other hand, what is now the right time for? What can I do? What is under my control? If I hadn't bothered trying to find answers during the week there, what would be the point of thinking now? Maybe I should just try to go back to my ordinary life. The words ordinary life were painful to me. Why did I choose that specific word? I could have said past, former, or something else. I guess because it was what I was used to. That's the most obvious answer. As they say, what you get used to becomes second nature to you. Instantly, all of last week's events floated before my eyes. Did I really want to stay there so badly? Was just 1 week enough for me to get used to Olga Demetra picking on me all the time, Uliana's pranks and joking around, or Alisa's cheekiness and mockery? I had no answer to this question, but it's obvious that I already missed it. Although I'm sure I'll never return. Obviously, I can't tell whether the force that brought me there might want to entertain itself again. And again and again. Shifty eyes? It is possible. But for now I have what I have, an adventure that I'll remember for the rest of my life. Damn it. How many people get to experience something like that? Even books, even dreams about such things are unthinkable. The main thing is that it wasn't Dr. Moreau's evil island, but a normal Soviet pioneer camp with normal pioneers. And its commonness was overlaid by the astonishing origin of my arrival there. Anyway, it wasn't the worst experience of my life. Perhaps it was one of the best. Obviously, it's sad that everything just ended halfway through, but every story has an end. It's good that it has ended that way. Who knows what else could have happened. Time passed. The events that took place in the camp now seem more like a fascinating novel I once read. No, I haven't forgotten them. I could recall them in the finest detail. I remember how as a child I used to lie under a blanket with a flashlight and read a fascinating book about spaceflight until dawn. Sometimes I was unable to get up to go to school. My parents always used to scold me for that, but with every night approaching, I would carefully turn every page, trying to absorb every minor detail of the story. I had similar feelings about that pioneer camp. Reality, if I could consider it such, now seemed more like a book. I didn't think it was bad at all. In the end, the main thing is to remember, and it's not important whether these memories take the form of a slideshow, photos, video, or audio. Now each bus made me feel both fear and hope. At first I circled around the 410 bus without purpose. Several times I fell asleep on the same seat. But nothing happened, not even a trace of something supernatural. As times went by, I stopped these idle trips. Something changed in my life, I just couldn't do otherwise. A couple of weeks after my return from the camp, I took up my guitar that was lying lonely and gathering dust in the corner. Striking a couple of chords, I remembered Alisa. For me, her image was inseparable from this instrument. At first it didn't work out very well. Maybe I just had no talent for music. I started reading teach-yourself books and watching video lessons. On the other hand, all the effort wasn't a burden anymore. I just played the chords and polished my skill. And as with any kind of activity, including music, practice makes perfect. About half a year later, I realized that I'd achieved some results. At least I could now smoothly play parts of my favorite songs. Satisfied with my progress, I put a couple of advertisements on music forums intending to form my own band. I still had no idea what kind of music I wanted to play. My tastes varied from something really heavy to anime soundtracks. At first it seemed impossible for me. I would have to communicate with strangers, and what if we were just too different? And anyway, how do I explain to others what music I want to make? But it all worked out much easier. The potential candidates turned out to not be so frightening, and our taste was mostly the same. After all, we shared the same goals, so issues stemming from a lack of understanding could be resolved. And soon we had a band. Suddenly I discovered my talent as a composer. Having spent entire days and nights on the note editor and sequencers, I started composing okayish things, at least in the opinions of the other band members and pals I showed my songs to. Quite soon we gave our first concert. A D-list club not significantly more spacious than my bedroom, 3.5 viewers who weren't exactly sober. I was hellishly anxious, and the sound equipment was constantly malfunctioning. But all of that didn't bother me because I was happy, since this was just the first step to success. However, it was a long time before we were invited again. With great difficulty, we managed to record 3 tracks and publish them on the internet. The reviews were far from ecstatic, but it didn't bother me much. It was just the beginning. Maybe some considering our music just a leisure activity or a brief fixation, but for me it was serious. After all, it was me who founded the band, and all the music was mine as well. I felt a personal responsibility for the fate of my creation. Every spare moment I spent on improving my performance technique, and after a year I could already confidently say that I wasn't the worst guitarist in the world. Then some sort of popularity came. We were giving concerts almost every week and were finally getting paid. It wasn't important that it was just 500 rubles per man. That's what that is, right? The fact that our work was in demand and someone was ready to pay for it, even though we were usually a warm-up for other bands, was what mattered. I was sitting before my monitor torturing a guitar. The date of an upcoming concert was thickly circled on the computer desktop calendar. The very thought of that gave me goosebumps. It will be the first time we'll be headliners. And we'll have an album presentation as well. I wonder how many discs would be sold. Of course the CD era is over, but there's still some who appreciate it. And maybe some will buy it just to support the band. I looked at the date once more. Yes, it is exactly a year since I returned from Semyon. My smile reflected in the darkened monitor screen. I wonder whether Alisa would like my music if she existed in this world. Don't think so. She preferred Soviet rock classics, but who knows? I played a couple of complicated guitar parts and concluded, with a feeling of satisfaction, that the sound of my guitar surpasses by far that of the Soviet Ural guitars, and my skill had overcome that of the guitars of the same era. I wonder whether I would have achieved all this without those fantastic events. Unlikely. Nothing strange about that. Lots of people rethink their life after stepping close to the edge. Sure, nothing dangerous happened back then, but a psychological shock is a good substitute for grave danger. I rehearsed my part once more, put the guitar in a case, packed all my stuff, and headed to the exit. It was cold outside just like that day. Slowly I approached the bus stop for the 410. Slowly I approached the bus stop for the 410. Such a coincidence, I'm going to the club on this very same bus. With a sinking heart, I counted down the seconds. Soon the bus arrived. It idly opened its doors and swallowed up a few passengers. It was a winter night just like back then. Cars flashed by outside with their headlights igniting the city as it got ready to sleep. The closer we got to the downtown area, the more people there were in the streets. Some of them were chatting merrily, some were perusing magnificent boutique windows, and some were hurrying somewhere, paying no attention to anything. This day I had no wish to return to that camp. Any other time maybe, but not today. I must play the concert, and the rest can go to hell. I had a clear aim, and nothing else mattered. The club was considerably bigger than the one we played our first concert in, but at the moment it was empty. The sound check was going on. I couldn't hear the drums through the monitor loudspeakers, which I desperately tried to tell the sound guy about. Sound tuned, gadgets installed, set list all prepared, ready to rock. But it's a special day. We're not doing the warm-up. The other guys are doing the warm-up before our concert. Thus our entrance is last. As I listened to the first band, I noted that they had a lot of improving to do. On the other hand, we were no better not so long ago. As the time got closer to the start of our performance, my tension grew enormous. Come on, I was literally shaking with anxiety. I decided not to listen to the other band, and to wait calmly in the dressing room. Judging by their expressions, my mates were in the same mood. We were silent. Actually, we had nothing to talk about. Our parts were learned and perfected long time ago. Only nervousness could hinder us, but we already had some experience, so everything will be fine. At least I comforted myself with this thought. And now, finally, the time has come. I don't remember how we entered the stage and greeted the audience. My consciousness turned on when the first chords of our first song came from the speakers. While sitting in the makeup room, I desperately tried to warm up my ice-cold fingers, but now they ran from string to string without the slightest mistake, as if they were charmed. A thought flashed across my mind. Why didn't I still make a single mistake? When I played all these parts at home or during rehearsals, I never thought about it. Everything seemed to matter, of course. But now when I stood in front of an audience, it felt different. Somewhere deep in my mind there was a thought that soon my finger would slip, and thank goodness the thinking didn't interfere with my playing. Our performance was nearing the end, and now was the time for the difficult solo I'd been learning for so long. By that point my nervousness had vanished, and I played through it perfectly, even better than during the rehearsals. Are those 3D model people? That's weird. They look like spirits reaching out, gonna grab him. Finally, our performance was over and the concert hall burst into applause. I smiled awkwardly, at least I thought so, and bowed several times with the rest of the band. They shouted encore to us. Even without them shouting, I would have been glad to play something else, but we'd run out of songs as we were just a newly formed band. Yeah, but what's your band name? This is very important. I need to know. Euphoria prevailed in the dressing room as we congratulated and hugged each other. The sounds of opening champagne bottles echoed in the halls. All our discs had been sold, which made me even happier. Finally, I managed to become something too. It's possible to predict the future of our band or of the whole affair with music. But one thing was clear. I finally found something I'm interested in and can dedicate my entire life to. As well as that, I can see that it may be able to make people other than me happy. I was probably now the happiest man on earth. At least it was surely the best moment in my life. The club is empty, instruments are packed, and I'm waiting for the others so we can go home. I glance at the stage where I'd been standing just an hour ago. Once again, joy, pleasure, and excitement grip me. This won't be the last time I appear on that stage for sure. And maybe even grander stages like concert halls and Olympic stadiums are in my future, who knows. Anything is possible now. After saying goodbye to my mates, I ran to the bus stop and luckily caught the 4:10 bus. Nobody was inside. I took a seat behind the driver, just like back then. Some familiar tune could be heard from the radio. Maybe one day my songs will also be played on the radio. In some way, these trips were similar to the events that took place a year ago. I mean, at the moment everything is as expected, achieved by means of hard work, and the planned result is fulfilled. But I'm returning as another man. A man who has changed in a way. So hardcore. Ah! I got the bad end. How do I get the good end? I don't even recall, where it could have gone wrong. Every story has its beginning and its end. Every story has its own outline, synopsis, contents, key points, and a prologue and an epilogue. Alright, well, I'm gonna go figure out how to get Alisa's good end. Okay.